at Facebook is online.
This is Andrea Yount. We're preparing for Therapy Thursday, our weekly broadcast on mental health topics. Therapy Thursday is brought to you by Affinity Counseling Services and A Lovely Pause. This is a test.
Affinity Counseling Services is located in Piggott, Arkansas, and Kennett, Missouri. We currently have 4 therapists in our office and are taking new clients. To join our sign-up sheet, visit counselingwithaffinity.com, and to find out more, you can call me, Kindred, at 870-324-5122 or 573-840-0440. Thank you.
A Lovely Pause is a local nonprofit created to provide community education, awareness, coping skills, and support for those who suffer with PTSD or other trauma-related disorders. This month, subscribers to our newsletter will receive a free Parenting Pause checklist. Use this tool to help determine what you're feeling and what type of parenting pause you need to take. Use the checklist to help you find ways to ground yourself and be a great example of emotional maturity for your kids. Sign up at alovelypause.com or visit us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This is a test.
Just getting the camera adjusted. Got it? All right, let's get started.
Go. Wait. I forgot to do the intro. Just hold on just a second.
Therapy Thursday normalizes discussing mental health topics in a safe, supportive environment because not being normal is normal.
Now go.
Welcome, everyone, to Therapy Thursday, our weekly installment here at Affinity Counseling Services, where we talk about different mental health topics from a personal and professional perspective. My name is Matthew Yount, lead therapist and president of Affinity Counseling.
And I'm Andrea Yount. I am the vice president of Affinity and chairman of the board of A Lovely Pause.
And my lovely wife.
Yeah, I am.
And behind our camera,
As always, taking your questions, comments, and concerns, Kindred.
would you prefer I introduce you, or do you want to introduce yourself?
I was just off today.
No,
Obviously.
I don't care about you being off. I'm just asking what you would prefer in the future.
Oh, I mean, I don't care to introduce myself.
Cool.
That's fine.
That's fine then. I never know. Sometimes people want to, sometimes they don't. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Therapy Thursday. We appreciate you joining us. We are going to be continuing our discussion today. We are, for the month, we are having a conversation about parenting. Mm-hmm. And I think today we're talking about co-parenting.
Yep.
So before we get into that, I guess we can start. Are you going to start promoting your next fundraising event?
Pretty soon, yeah. I mean, we don't have anything up about it, but we will be promoting it pretty soon. Our next event's going to be in June. It's going to be a poker tournament.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Texas Hold'em, bingo, all kinds of fun stuff.
Blackjack?
So we'll have, no
blackjack?
No blackjack, no.
See, I'm out of the loop.
Yeah,
I probably can't promote anything if I'm not in the loop.
I've heard rumors of bingo being thrown around.
Yeah, bingo, silent auction, things like that.
Sweet.
So
all right.
It'll be fun.
Cool.
We're gonna do a takeover.
We'll talk more about that.
Yeah, when we have a little bit more information about it and we start promoting it. But yeah.
Cool. All right. So we got that coming up. How is A Lovely Pause coming along as far as development?
Doing great. Yeah, I mean, we're making more than we expected to. Being a new nonprofit,
yeah.
We're raising money faster than we expected to, which is great. Like, it's great to know that people are, happy to help when it comes to helping people who have trauma issues and helping them get the services that they need so that they can.
Yeah, I have so many clients to refer to you whenever you guys finally get going.
Yeah.
I got so many people that need so many different types of services they just don't have access to right now.
Yeah.
So, no, that'll be great once we finally get that started.
I'm super excited about that.
Okay, well, might as well get on to today's topic then. It's just you and I and Kindred today. Stacy is out, sick kid. So we are going to be tackling, which this is perfect for us. I mean, my goodness, we've We've done co-parenting situations. I've lived in co-parenting situations. So the challenges of co-parenting. I think probably the number one challenge is, as co-parenting, we're talking about like a divorce situation or a separation situation, somewhere where the two biological parents are not in the same home. Is that
Right.
what we're discussing?
Yes.
Okay. And I think one of the biggest challenges for co-parenting is if you could get along with the person in the first place that you're co-parenting with, you would probably still be married. So it's not going to be all of a sudden usually any easier to get along with them now that you're not married, but you still have to share kids with each other. So what are some of the challenges that you see that's just in a typical co-parenting situation?
The emotions of the parents, like you were saying, the emotions that you have towards each other. They're still usually if you have kids together and you just separate, you don't have that ability to just get over the emotions. You have to confront those emotions first so that it doesn't harm the kids. And so a lot of times, you will react to the emotions that you feel about your ex person or the person, your baby mama or baby daddy.
Yeah.
And you will react emotionally, and which is not always in the best interest of the kids.
Yeah, because the
usually.
reason you're separated may not have been amicable. It may not be two people who are like, you know what, we're not good for each other, so we probably just need to split, but let's still stay peaceable for the kids' sake. I mean, that happens.
Oh, yeah.
But it's rare.
It's rare because it's hard for people to experience, those. There's a lot of emotions that we go through, even if we know that the separation is, for the betterment of everyone involved. It still feels like a failure. It still feels like you still have to mourn. There's still a lot of grief and heavy, overwhelming emotions that come with it. And so if we're not necessarily in a place or seeking help where we can learn to control our emotions and not react to where they're creating instances where it's hurting our kids.
Well, and it can be very difficult to mourn if you still have to see the person.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
you still have to interact with them, so you don't get that distance that you normally would have in a breakup because you still have kids together, so you still have to see them.
and then there's all the unresolved issues that were already present in the relationship that are going to show up in the co-parenting situation.
Yes.
There's you never communicate with me. You're irresponsible. You want to change plans at the last second. You tell me one thing, then want to do something else. You keep telling the kids you're going to be here, but you don't show up.
Right. So then that as a parent who I know that then that amplifies your emotions about it, because not only are they doing it to you, but you're watching them doing it to your kid, which is hard.
Yeah.
And so if there are those issues, that makes it even harder to not react to those overwhelming emotions that you're feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a really strong urge to want to continue to fight or try to get things to be different or better in the early parts of a co-parenting situation by one side or the other. And sometimes the kids get used as pawns in the middle of that.
Right. And not even intentionally, but they do. And it can happen to the best of us, that situation. We just overreact to our emotions, and then we look back and we're like, oh, that made my kid, that put my kid in a bad situation. And, so we have to be aware of that before we react on those things.
Yeah, sorry, I had to remove this. Looking on here, it just looks like a big floating orange ball in the middle, so chunk that. Thank you, I appreciate that.
I think we have we probably have like a gray one. I think would look better.
That would look good, yeah, because it just a big floating orange ball. It kind of just seems out of place. Anyway, now that I've broken the fourth wall, we will return. So I was annoyed and distracted. So it was. Then you get the idea that you get the people still trying to take out those things on one another. The kids get used, and then once the kids start getting used, that starts psychologically damaging them because they start feeling like they have to choose sides.
Yeah.
And I think even one of the harder things is like, let's say that like one of you who has the kids most of the time is actually doing all of the right things. Like you're not talking down about the other person. You're trying to be responsible. You're being as consistent as you can with how often that you're trying to let the other person see the kids. But the kids start taking out their frustrations on you because you're the parent that's around. And because they don't want to feel like that the other parent is choosing something else over them, they start blaming you or making it feel like it's your fault that the other person's not showing up. And so sometimes that comes out as outright blaming, or sometimes you're just the one that gets the brunt of their emotions.
You just get projected on.
Yeah. So what do you do in those circumstances when you've got somebody projecting on you that's your kid?
Me, I would be like, okay, they probably need therapy
Yeah.
to deal with this, because in that situation, it's a fine line to walk. Yes, you can have that conversation with your kid, but you have to walk that fine line of not talking bad about their parent and not, their other parent. And so sometimes that's harder for us to do. And if we don't feel like we can do that, putting them with someone that we trust that they can talk to about the situation unbiasedly, so that they can help process their feelings. Because, obviously, if you feel like you can have that conversation and try to help them process that, then do so. But a lot of times, like as a parent who's co-parenting, it's that fine line of walking of, is this going to make them think I'm talking bad about their other parent?
Yeah. So, and it's hard to know where the line is.
It is, yeah.
It's because let's say that you're one of the parents and the other parent's just not showing up when they said they were going to, or they're changing plans or whatever it is. They're just disappointing you and the kid. And you don't take it as personal, but you know how much it hurts your kid, so that's a problem. Well, it's like, where do you draw the line on, I'm not talking bad, but how do I explain to you what's going on in a way that doesn't sound like I'm talking bad about your other parent?
It's definitely a fine line of doing that, because you have to do it in a more compassionate, understanding way than in a blaming way.
Yeah.
You have to speak to them like, well, just like anybody else, they're having issues. We've got these overwhelming emotions, or maybe, this is just something they need to work on, or maybe encouraging them to have conversations with that other parent, and express their feelings with it.
Yeah, but that can be very difficult, because sometimes that other parent is not open.
I know.
And they're very defensive, or they're just not truthful.
I know.
And so they say things like, oh, I just got busy. I'll be there next week. Hey, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, if they were like narcissistic or just blaming in general, then they may come back and make the kid feel like they're even terrible for asking in the first place.
Then you have to reinforce that positive mindset for your child of like that's not who you are, and and that. And just at that point, I feel like as a parent, you would just have to reinforce, how much this kid is special. Because I know feeling like, your dad or mom or whatever not wanting to spend time with you, or not making that active effort to spend time with you, makes you feel like there's something wrong with you as a child.
Sure.
And so just reinforcing
but you can reinforce it, but you know what that does, though. I mean, it may make you feel better around those people.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You can reinforce that, but that's not going to make that go away. That's why in that point, that situation, I would say therapy. That's just personally that I would, for my kid, I would be like, you need somewhere where you can go and feel safe with someone that we trust to be able to let you process these emotions unbiased.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, and I think the other part of it is you're just going to have to know that your kid's going to be hurt. And
that's part of life.
I'm one for telling the truth in most of these circumstances.
Me too.
Like, look, your other parent didn't show up. We don't exactly know why. They didn't tell us. This has been a reoccurring thing. I'm not going to tell you that I can understand it. I can tell you it's not anything to do with you. It's their issue.
Exactly.
But that doesn't stop the pain, but it helps the kid process it better over time.
Yes.
Because typically what happens is, for almost any situation, whatever you show to be normal was what they will perceive to be normal. So if you show a lot that, well, I'm hiding things, or I'm acting like that this isn't really happening, or I'm making excuses for that parent, or whatever I'm doing, then I'm not telling them the truth. So they don't really have anything to operate on, so they have to create their own thoughts about this. And we never create good thoughts that are our own. We don't ever sit there and go, well, golly, maybe they're just having issues with the fact that they were not a good, they weren't treated well. as a kid, and they don't know how to be a parent. Kids don't think that way. Most adults don't think that way. So they're going to make up the worst things in their head and still not know if that's true or not. But if you're being honest with them and saying, like, look, I don't know what the issue is, but, he didn't show up again, or it doesn't seem like she's going to make it. It just seems like these promises are going to keep being broken. You're not talking bad about the person. You're
Exactly.
just stating reality.
Yes, and that's what I meant by like reinstating that positive, like this is what's happening. Yes, acknowledging what's happening, but then it's telling them that it doesn't have anything to do with them, and
Right.
reinforcing that it has to do with issues that their other parent is dealing with or whatever. And then at that point they would still need that process those emotions because, like you said, it's not going to go away.
Yeah. So I think I think it's an easy trap to fall into, but it's not a good thing to do, is that the parent who is there all the time wants to try to make up for the other parent not being there. So they get overly doting, or they start spoiling, or they quit
And that's not
disciplining like they need to because they're like, well, I just feel so bad for them. And no, you can't do that either.
Structure and discipline is still something that everyone needs to learn.
Yes.
Structure, discipline, responsibility.
Yep. And so you cannot... there's no way you can make up for what that other parent's doing. The best thing you can possibly do is just keep being a good parent.
Yes.
Okay? So then let's say that the two people are co-parenting. I think then the next thing that actually gets difficult to deal with is now that other person or both people have started dating other people. And that creates its own sense of difficulty and stress, because if one or both of the people never really got over the fact that the relationship ended and should have ended, then there can be animosity, jealousy, anger, things that start to build that come out subconsciously or even very directly between the parents, and then little fights start getting picked and regression starts happening. That can occur. Or even if both people are just over the fact that they're not with each other anymore, but maybe your other partner has now chosen somebody who is really not that good of a person, or is unreliable, or doesn't treat your kids well, or things like that. That is a very difficult thing to have to deal with, because now the other person's going to be like, I don't want you butting in my life. This is my girlfriend, or this is my boyfriend. And it's like, well, I know that, but it's creating an unhealthy environment for our kids. I think this is why, if you do end up in a situation, especially if it's one related to divorce or where there's any type of custody involved, sometimes you just want to get the divorce over with and you just want to get the custody thing done. But setting yourself up with the most legal protection possible is the best thing you can do in these circumstances, because there are times where the other person is going to want to go off the rails and start doing things that are not healthy for the kids to be around, and you need that legal protection to fall back on, saying, I'm sorry, but in our agreement here, these are things you cannot be doing. You can't be bringing people over and having them spend the night with the kids there. You can't be doing these things around the kids. And if you don't set that up early on, you don't have the legal protection to fall back on. And going back and getting it's much harder than setting it up to begin with. So I think it's just such a stress, the divorce process, that most people don't want to put in the time to just make sure that they're completely protected and that their kids are protected. They just I just want this over with.
I really think all of it can be summed up with just, and everybody knows this. Everybody's heard it, and it's just kind of a duh thing. But like in every situation, are you putting your child's happiness in this situation? Because anything that has to do with your ex has nothing to do with you anymore.
Yeah.
So in that moment that you're having to deal with that ex because of your child, you should be putting your child's happiness in front of yours, and sacrificing everything that you feel in that moment for your child to be able to have a relationship with their parent for their growth and their betterment.
Yeah.
And so, in every situation that you're dealing with, you just have to think: am I doing this for me? Am I feeling this for me? Am I reacting this way for me, or is it for my kids, the betterment of my child?
Yeah.
And really, I think that's just. We all get caught up in how we're feeling and how we want things, and everything that we lose sight of, what's best for our kid, which is really what's most important in those situations.
Yeah. So I think let's talk about then how you can do this well, because it's definitely been done well. My parents
Yeah.
did a really good job at it, and I appreciated how they co-parented. If you're going to do it right, there's got to be a lot of communication. You have to know what's going on with the kid in each household pretty consistently. So there has to be the, hey, they're acting like this here, or hey, we had some problems here. Hey, I found out that this, that they're doing really well at school, and I just wanted to tell you so you could congratulate them too. There has to be an understanding of, we both know what's going on with the kids. You don't want to leave one of the parents in the dark. And if, as long as both people are acting like adults and can be cooperative, you want to have this situation where we are going to communicate rather than letting the other person just find out this stuff is going on.
Yes.
Like, here's your ball schedule, or here's the times where they've got extracurricular activities at school, so you can come to them. We want to make sure that, if one parent especially lives in the town where they go to school and the other one doesn't, we want to get you all the information, access to their grades, everything that you can possibly see, so that both parents feel involved and can make informed decisions. And I think the other thing is, even though it's really difficult, is to try to have the most consistent rules house to house that you can on your base rules.
Yeah.
Things like chores that have to be done, things like bedtimes, or just your basically
The structure
the
part of it.
structure part.
Yeah.
Because while there's obviously going to be some differences, what they don't need to happen is like, okay, well, I'm here all week, and then I go to this parent's house on the weekend. This one that I'm with all week has me doing chores and has a regular bedtime. This one's like, I don't care what you do. I'm
Yeah,
just
it's a
glad to see
vacation.
you.
Right.
Let's just party the whole time. And so because that starts to build resentment between the one that does have to keep them structured, and then they come from the place where there was unstructured back into the structured place, and it takes 2 or 3 days to get them back into the structure.
Yeah.
So you get maybe 2 good days of structure, and then you're right back into the situation again. It creates chaos for all people involved.
Instability and resentment and lots of other things.
Yeah. So you want to try to create as much communication and consistency as you can. And I think the other thing that you already mentioned, but it's worth repeating, is always putting first what is best for the kid.
Yeah.
So if you're making a decision, it's always, is this going to be best for them?
And thinking about it, like being honest with yourself. If you're having an overwhelming emotion or overwhelming reaction to it, why? Why are you having an overwhelming reaction to it? And if it's because you feel like it's not for the best interest of your kid, then it's worth pursuing. But if it's not, and it's just something that is a selfish, feeling, then you need to be able to hold that in and talk about that with someone else.
Yep. And I would recommend, if you have the maturity to do it, when big things happen, you make sure that everybody is there to be involved as a support.
Yeah.
Or to talk to the kid about their behavior if it's getting out of hand. And even if you can't all be in the same room, it's like you need to call each other and say, okay, this is what I'm going to say to them. What are you going to say to them? And let's try to have the most consistent message that we possibly can, so that they're getting reinforcement from both sides that this is what's expected of you.
If you're having kids together, you're still expected to be a team for that kid.
Yeah.
You don't have to like each other, but you be a team for that kid because that kid is worth it.
Yes. So it's hard, though.
It is.
Because so many people's emotions get in the way. So many people want to feel like, I want to be the favorite, or I didn't do anything wrong, and this relationship shouldn't have ended in the first place, and I want that other person to suffer. We get so angry and attached and frustrated that it ends up being taken out on the kids.
Scared and jealous and lots of stuff.
Yep. And if your kids are young when this happens, I don't care who you are and how you handle it, they are automatically going to, somewhere in their consciousness, believe that this had to do with them somehow.
Yes.
And you can't stop that from happening. You can only deal with it later through constant communication with them. But it is incredibly normal for young kids to feel like that anything that happens is somehow their fault, because they don't have a different frame of reference. So they have to believe things are their fault because that's all they know. You have to just continually work with them as they develop to help them understand that why, as different age groups, you can tell them more about why you guys are not together. Until when they're teenagers, they can much better understand it on a more complex level, and like even start to agree that, yeah, okay, I can definitely see why you guys split up and you didn't need to be together, and I'm glad you're not together. I mean, even when I was a teenager, I could look back and like, yeah, my parents certainly didn't need to be together.
Yeah.
They're good. They're both good people, and I love them both, and I'm equally bonded to both of them. But they don't do well. They didn't do well together at that time, but they did make the mature decision to co-parent well, and so that helped over time. But I still carried the idea of somehow this was my fault until eventually I got old enough to understand it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that that's going to happen, and that divorce and separation just in and of itself is a damaging thing. But the worst thing you can do is feel guilty and make decisions off of that guilt. Because when you're making decisions off the guilt, you almost never make a good decision. Unless the decision's made off of your guilt, or I should go fix the problem that is I created, or I got to do the best I can moving forward. You don't need to be making decisions like, well, okay, I guess I can let them do these things because I messed up as a parent right here.
Yeah,
so now I'm going to let them have this or get away with this. That is the worst thing you can possibly do. Do not make decisions like that out of guilt. And the last thing you ever want to teach your kids is they can guilt you into getting what they want, because then you're going to end up in a bad circumstance. And I think the hardest thing, too, is a lot of times if you got a kid that acts like the parent that is not you, that can be really hard. I have watched a lot of kids get damaged because they either looked like or acted like the parent that left or that just wasn't around anymore, and then the other parent took that out on them and took out their issues through that kid as they grow up, and they didn't understand how to deal with it. So you got to be very cautious if you're doing those things as well. Yeah, co-parenting is a deep subject. There's a lot to go into, but we've ended up doing it just fine, I think, and we've had good examples in our life too, so that's been helpful. Just where are we on time at the moment? Because we didn't get started at the normal time.
We're at 27 minutes.
Okay, so we just got about 3 minutes left. So, no questions, comments, anything that we need to go over?
Stacy said she's having a co-parenting situation this morning.
She is. That's why she's not here. She's dealing with her co-parenting.
Yeah,
like a good co-parent.
Yep, like a good co-parent, just communicating and dealing with it. So that's what we do, and that's fine. We understand that. We support people taking care of their family here, so we want to make sure that people are able to do that. So, and you and I can handle this just fine. Yeah. So, if you feel like that you are in a difficult co-parenting situation, or you're about to go through a co-parenting situation or create one and you need help setting that up properly, or you went through one as a kid and it didn't work out very well, whatever it is, we can try to help with that. That's one of the good things about therapy, is it can help you work through a lot of your childhood issues. You can contact us.
It can help you prepare for those issues to come, so that they're not as hard or difficult on all involved.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So you can contact us at Affinity Counseling Services, AFFINITY, on Facebook, or you can reach out to us by phone, 870-324-5122, or you can, for our Missouri location, it is 573-840-0440. Or you can reach us at counselingwithaffinity.com. Anything else we need to address? I think we're good? Yeah. All right, so next week, what is our topic? Do we have that in front of us?
I don't know what happened to your paper.
Oh, that's right. You wrote it up here. Thank you, Kindred.
Yeah.
What is it?
Oh, raising independent people.
All right.
And it's also Take Your Kids to Work Day, so we might have a special guest next week.
You're going to try to get Jack to come in?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Jack would be hilarious.
He would love it, and he will be fun.
Okay.
And he's a very independent child.
He is that.
Bring Jack.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I'm going to have Jack. We're going to have Jack on here next week, maybe.
Yes.
So.
It's got to happen. Tell him I'm expecting him.
Yeah.
If the headphones can fit over his hair, my goodness, that kid's got a head of hair.
It fits over mine, so.
He's got you beat.
He does, he does have a lot more than me.
All right, well, we'll see you all next week. Thank you very much for joining us.